Greetings and salutations in our distance. It is Wolfphototech, and here we are with another delightful video. This time I'm going to do a quick overview of the Pathfinder 2nd edition from Paizo Publishing, Deck of Endless NPCs. Deck of many things, Deck of Endless NPCs. It has a total of 110 cards, and this is to be used with, as I said before, Pathfinder 2nd edition. MSRPs for $24.99. Feels a little on the expensive side for that, but okay. Now let's open it up. These are normal sized playing cards. There are a total of 2 of these decks in the box. I sometimes forget to mention that in some videos that contains 2 decks. As you can see, I have both of them open, but I still have the sleeves. There are a couple cards right off the bat in the first deck that are instruction cards for how to use this, because quite frankly, you definitely need instruction cards to use this deck. There's the OGL card. So the first 10 sides, or actually technically 9, is all instructions on how to use this deck. These decks are a system that is not based in any other system in Pathfinder 2nd edition. It is incredibly important to denote that very important distinction, as that will seriously affect how you end up using these decks. The simple fact of the matter is that unlike many other decks like the Crit Fumble deck and the Critical Hit deck and the Hero Point deck or anything, or the Chase deck for Pathfinder 2nd edition, those are extra decks that add rules on top of a system that's already built into Pathfinder 2nd edition. This deck is a funny situation where the deck does not inherently operate off of a system that is actually within Pathfinder 2nd edition. This is character card number 1. As you can see, there's scrolls and hearts and all kinds of little fun things there. There's a piece of artwork right here. There is multiple names and etc. And these cards operate as basically a randomization, quick construction method of building characters on the fly, which I have to say is actually not as quick as it projects. It looks initially at front. There is actually quite a few options you have to go through this card, and it is, after all, as I said, is not built on any system that's in Pathfinder 2nd edition already. This is an entirely new system, so that heavily affects it as it is. Typically, pretty much every single one of these cards has a image on it that's entirely unique, that generally fits most of the information that's on the card. So you can use the card's image to show or describe to the players that character. However, that is not the most important thing on the card. This requires a great deal of translating the mechanics of these 2 decks to Pathfinder 2nd edition by essentially reconstructing the concepts from one thing into another thing. That is generally a terrible idea. This is pretty much strictly a game master before the game. Oh dear, I need a quick NPC concept. I have no idea what type of NPC I should look for the cards and see if I can have a few merchant cards in here. and then pick through the information on there quickly to construct such character quick. But quite frankly, it's not really good. These decks are not the best thing to do in the game, and they're like idea starters, but they're not even the most amazing idea starters. There's a point where you literally are just better off just flipping open the player's handbook and just throwing together a character concept on the fly, or go through the Game Master Guide, because the Game Master Guide system is perfectly fine as it is for constructing and building off of characters that are already pre-provided in the Game Master box. So this is one of those really messed up things right here. Not really messed up, but this is one of those things that, like, you already have a system for constructing NPCs. It works very well. And even then, you could just do what I do and just have imagination time and just think of a goofy NPC that characters will run into based on a theme from a movie or a novel or a video game you've played. I've played a lot of video games and some movies in the past. And that works perfectly fine right there. And for the most part, players will actually enjoy if they happen to just come across, oh, I realize such and such character is based on this type of character from this movie franchise, or this novel, or this anime, or this cartoon, or TV show. Controversial hot take: anime is cartoons that originated from Japan, that were based on 1920s, 1930s American cartoons. A lot of 1920s, 1930s American cartoons have a lot of the tropes, the core tropes of anime in them, just not expanded out into big stories. You know, typically cartoons have always been more episodic. Anime has actually took the direction of being more serialized is long before American cartoons, and that's just because American cartoons were designed to be played out of order. So there you go. But off the cartoon anime rant, this deck does indeed have tons and tons of options. If you want to buy it, you can, but I will not recommend this. It's called A Bit of Imagination and the Game Master's Guide, and you pretty much already have a perfectly fine operating system for coming up with characters. This is something in the lanes of, I hate to be insulting, game masters that do not possess any form of imagination situation. It's one of those disturbing things I've come across in online forums periodically, where I will come across game master or dungeon master advice groups where game masters there's game masters that literally do not seem to possess any form of imagination, and it's completely and utterly mind-blowing that there are such a people out there, and it's actually kind of aggravating in and of itself, because you end up literally getting some people who literally will just, there's already a few people I just remember from the Facebook group and Reddit and already, that their entire history is of them asking for names for characters, occupations, and etc, etc, etc. And one would think after a while a person would actually get to a point where they could just on the fly just generate characters, but it's just kind of disturbing. And I get it. Every so often people will say, oh, sometimes the game master is tired and they don't really have a lot of energy to come up with stuff. But even then, I've seen people with profiles and accounts that are literally so overloaded with 1,000 questions on what do you think of for a merchant? Anyone got some cool merchant ideas, and etc. 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 And it's just one of those things, you just kind of have to do it. It's a muscle. If you really want to be good, every so often it is handy to ask other people for ideas on something. But I personally prefer whenever you are on the Facebook groups or Reddit or Twitter or anything like that, it is oftentimes a really good idea to start from a point of reference, because there's a lot of these people out there that say, like, I want a merchant. I want merchants. And okay, that is a point of reference, merchants. But, like, is it a high magic world, a low magic world? Is it an elvish town? In an elven town? Is it where is this? Is it up in a icy place? You give people more information and they will construct better ideas for you. But even then, it's even on the flip side, when people do this and they give advice to these people, what they really also need to do is also give a line of logic as to why certain things, characteristics, go together and stuff like that, because that would actually allow for a learning experience for these game masters and various dungeon masters. But I don't see a whole lot of that either. It mostly seems like it's a lot of people. Well, not a lot of people, but there's a notable number of people who have like 1,000 posts asking for like merchants and horse furriers and stable hands, and I don't know if they're like fishing for ideas for a Dungeon Masters Guild book or something, and they're just simply just taking all the information that people give them, and they just rewrite that into a book and sell that on Dungeon Masters Guild. And there are actually a few, I've come across like a few people in the Dungeon Masters Guild circles that basically have design streams and stuff like that, where they basically have, this is a concept, and then they ask the audience like a bunch of questions, and the audience basically constructs their stuff for them, and then they basically pull the best options and by votes, and then they assemble stuff and put it up on the DM's Guild and sell it and make money on it. And it's just okay. It's nice that you have a community that helps you build stuff, but are you going to like give back some of this money that you make on this stuff to the community as well? I don't know. It appears not to be the case. There seems to be a lot of people, ever expanding number of people, who literally just fish for all the information and advice and to do all the work for them, and they put it into their games, or they put it into books and they sell them on the Dungeon Masters Guild. So there you go. Personally, I'm going to give this like a 2.5 or a 2-star. It's not non-functional, so that's not why it's. I'm not giving it a 1-star in this review part of the video. But anyways, it's a 2.5. It works, but it's essentially a supplementary system that you actually don't need to use at all. There's already a system in the Game Master's Guide and the Player's Hand in the core rule books to make characters, and if anything, that is one of the best things, and the funnest things to do is come up with characters, or take traits from characters from movies, TV shows, video games, etc., throw them into a game, and then twist them or adjust them. And there you go. And the more you do that, the better you get at it. But this is a system that is not built into this core system. It's a new entirely satellite system that you have to assemble and convert into the system. And this does not give you your character, a whole lot of character stats or anything for your NPCs. It just simply is like a generation point for characteristics of personality traits and occupations and history of characters. It doesn't construct like stat blocks. So you go and make a merchant out of this deck, and the players decide they want to attack that merchant, and the deck doesn't give you anything for stat blocks for making that merchant operate in a combat situation in the game. It just basically designates what the players can get from that merchant, the history of the merchant, and how quickly they can basically kill that merchant. So there you go. So it's a 2.5. This is probably one of the least essential decks I have reviewed so far for Pathfinder 2nd Edition. You could literally leave this on the store shelves. You can just ignore it outright. If you truly want to buy this and use the deck for quick character construction, sure, you can do so, but it's a $25 expenditure for something that the system already provides a perfectly adequate way of creating characters or NPCs. And if anything, the system that already exists in the the Game Master's Guide and the stat blocks that are already there already do a better job than this deck overall. So that's why it's in the 2-star territory. It's a 2.5. So thank you very much for watching this video. I hope you have a delightful day, a nice night, a wonderful weekend, a magnificent month, and see you next time. Ciao.